All right, here we are with an article review or showcase, and we are going to be reviewing this meta interview of James and his world, the future scene. So let's zoom in a bit so we can review it. All right. Interview. Where did the name for this world come about? Future seen comes from the contraction the future has seen. There are two ways to take this. One is to think of the future as a person who is giving the information to the present, another person. Canon-wise, it means that I, the author, have seen the future and is warning others about it. In other words, the future has been seen. I like that. What inspired your world? My world is a near-future dystopia. Dystopias are there not just as a way for the author to be angsty, but can be a way to warn others of a perceived threat. Consider 1984. That is there to warn us not to memory hole things, and that big government is an issue. Okay, 1984 is a proper name, so for a title. So I believe you would go the 1, the 9, the 8, and the 4, as that's the actual title of the book. And it would be good if you found a quote or something like that from the author to say, this is why I wrote it. If not, you could just say, in my opinion, or something like that, or the lessons I learned from it. My world is there to warn of misinformation. It was us in the old world who allowed our physical sciences in my world to be infiltrated by misinformation from those who who did the same with the social sciences. Okay. Do you think Future Scene was going to be more than 50 articles on World Anvil? Okay. In 2018, when I wrote a Google Doc, I didn't know about World Anvil. I saw sponsors for it, but I always thought it was a paid-for thing. In July 2020, I got a World Anvil account and started writing. I just thought about turning the document into a series of articles and nothing else. It wasn't until I happened across writer Greg's on my 29th birthday. I knew I could ask for help on article ideas and started my work in progress document, which is at present 10 pages long and doesn't contain just future scene stuff. It also contains Game of Thrones stuff, Lappin' for Life. On August 22, I did a sprint takeover on writer Greg's stream to ask what questions should I ask about the outside world. What I got instead was a string of helpful article points. You're welcome. And thank you for saying thank you. At this point, I didn't think I would have over 50 articles. It still astonishes me today looking at my word count sheet on Google Sheets, as well as seeing my word count increase from 403 from the Google Doc to now, which must be over 58,000 and over 75,000 with drafts in Google Docs I have for TOT, which is the Tourney of Tales in April. Okay. I also have. It also must be said. It also must be said I have to thank writer Greg to push me to write about the Great Rewind, Sable and Hefe Live for continually asking me for the name of this city, which is now Burdencaster, and lastly Sable for asking me why this world doesn't seem to have issues with copper, which led to the Salvaging Industry series of articles. Very nice. What is your plan for Future Scene? Future Scene Part 1 was always intended as therapy fiction. I would write to help myself out. For example, I might want to be accepted, so I would write a scene in which I was. When Future Scene Part 2 came out, came about, I wanted to make a computer game called, unsurprisingly, Future Scene. It wasn't until I got writing the salvaging series of articles and so showcased the meta introduction article, I soon realized I can create this world and give people rights to make items that are part of the Future Scene intellectual property, as long as I get a royalty, of course. What made you stop going down the computer game idea? The skill and time aspect is the main issue. I am still having issues with the BB code to this day. I wrote a new article and would hear a voice saying, "You're going to need to build this for the computer game," which I didn't enjoy. Ugh. What I enjoyed more was writing about forestry, for example. I could imagine myself starting there and describing what I saw during the writing of the article. At the time, just one long thing. It's one thing to write a world, it's another one to want to stay there. Very true. Are there article subjects you will not touch? Yes, I will never touch medical stuff. Not because I am squeamish. More likely, I know that there's going to be one person who is a medical practitioner or a historian who would like to. Oh, I'm sorry. Historian who would be like, quote, "That's wrong. It would be like this," end quote. It also doesn't interest me that much. If I reinserted the hospital, it would be over one, and I would have to look up how many beds would be in each. I would also have to think about how the Great Rewind affected medical technology, something that would require me to go to London for its science museum. To a lesser extent, I when I wrote Future Scene Part 1, I wanted to have as little conflict as possible. I didn't like wars, and I didn't want my characters having arguments. Arguments, how I write them, either sounds too polite or too academic. It wasn't until I watched Matthew Colville that I thought he was right. Are the nations in your Dungeon and Dragon campaign at war? If not, why? Interesting. There there should be some conflict somewhere, so when I get there I will reach out to Sable for help using her brainstorm redemption. Last, I won't touch religion, as in the UK we have laws that can be restrictive, and I'm happy to make up my own, as I did with the Johnny Miller article. Come on. Hmm. No total tip. Okay. Did the pandemic affect your research? It would be odd if I said it didn't. My military research still requires me to go to the HMS Warrior in Portsmouth, and it will be a good way for me to see it when I write. I I can talk to experts and get answers from them that the internet may have jargon-based issues. So as when I try to find out how much a kilogram of nickel is worth. What is your writing process? So the process is get an idea, ask others what the template should be. I often have some idea what they want to see in the article, then lay it out in Google Docs and fill it with content. After that, edit it twice. Send it to someone else for edits, change the text, read it back, insert it into the world anvil, adding the BB code for the mention system, change the layout so it looks good, add images, add in sidebar text, and lastly, update my word count spreadsheet. Okay, so you say into the world anvil. Well, is it in? It can be either into World Anvil or into the World Anvil account. You can pick either way, but not going halfway. After insertion, I go through streamers in this order: Wow, we're in an order. Hey, it's AP, Siobhan, Laura Bones, Hefe Live, Writer Greg, Kahuna the Elder, and then ends on Sable. Interesting. Were you always a writer? Okay, there's the end of the sprint. I missed a tooltip. Edits. Thanks, Emily. As a child, I would come up with stories. I'm sorry, just not breathing enough. Unfortunately, I would say them while in the presence of the school staff, and then they would get the idea for us to write a story. My stories weren't nice as a child, so I felt restricted as the school would read my story and be like, okay, we need to call in your parents. Coupled with being dyslexic and hating getting work back that might as well have been covered in red ink, and you can see it took me a long time to get into the writing circle. In my college days, I would write articles on topics I wanted to see as I wanted to see as part of British life, such as a bank that was open later and on bank holidays, and open to all bank accounts. It's odd for a writer such as myself to say this, but I am faster writer than I once was, and now can turn out about a maximum of 14 articles in a month. When I started, it was about an article a month, if that. I'm finding it harder to have ideas now and have dry spells more easily now. I write by seeing it, so I have a list of items that if I can't see it, I won't go down the route of writing it. Interesting. Well, we all each have our process. The I was listening to Brandon Sanderson's um, Cosmere collection, and he was explaining his inspiration for the short novella The Emperor's Soul. And he talked about writing what you know, and he says, well, I don't know fantasy, I don't know X, I don't know Y. And then he ended it with, and I'm paraphrasing, don't write what you know, write what you see. And I think that could work really well for us because, James, as you're talking about, you're going to the different, the different museums, the ship, and things like that. Um, yeah, writing what you see. So good. Were there any articles you had imposter syndrome on? Every writer gets imposter syndrome. Mine was on forestry. I felt that people who lived in areas that had a forestry industry would poo poo my article and not enjoy it. I was wrong, of course. Thanks to Siobhan for the comment and like. Is it true that you planned for World Ember 2021 in February 2021? Yes, I did. Okay, let's get back into a second sprint because article reviews can take up to 2 sprints. And when this timer goes off, we'll stop there for the critique and just see how far we can get through. Do you find World Ember easy? Yes, I am an overwriter, so I will use 12 words when 5 would do just as well. I also like putting in tables for pretty much anything. This year World Ember for this year's World Ember for me, I will be writing about transportation and trade items. Last time I found I hadn't planned for it, so this year I have quite a bit earlier. This year's World Ember will lead into a military conflict in March. As in January, I will be writing season 2 of Game of Tomes and editing it in February. Good. There's a new member of World Anvil who is a free man. Got any advice? Okay, this is good. I am a free man too. One point is that we have a limit of 175 articles. You will feel that that's not a lot of articles and will feel like you will burn through them. You won't. It's hard to burn through them all. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Very true. Have a permanently drafted article with a document template. The point of this is to test BB code with the document template. You can test what the document will look like without sticking to the actual article. It can also then be a plan article so that no one else sees. I thought free men can't make any of their stuff private. Lastly, don't be afraid to put your stuff out there and to have it showcased. Also, if people badger you for answers, that is not a bad thing. It just means another article needs to be created. You will feel annoyed at the start, but at the end, you will be pleased that you made the choice to make the article. Have you got any other projects going? I write my character stories in the Game of Tones story universe, and I have many buildings and interiors and finishes in Minecraft. I am currently building the headquarters of House Lapin in Minecraft. What can we expect from your world in the future? You can expect at least one new military conflict. I just need to write the situation document for it and redeem Sable's brainstorming redemption. You can expect a whole bunch of new articles that I wrote during the turning of Tales in April. I'm thinking of I'm I think I'm up to 17 articles that will be inserted when I put them up. And finally, why House Lappin? The story goes like this. It was November 2020, and I was about to make my first word report in Greg's stream. I've narrowed my choices down to House Lappin and Meles. I think Meles looked cool. It looked like a melee, as in a melee weapon. I realized that this was not the case and couldn't pronounce it. For sheer luck, I couldn't pronounce it. I got go for Lappin. For sheer luck that I couldn't pronounce it, I go for Lappin. Then I decided that if Lappin would fall, I would go to Meles. Neither did I know that by the time Lappin did fall, Meles had already fallen for about 15 days. I can't insert this into my character's story as it has already been written to be that I was already loyal to House Lappin even before I started playing Game of Tomes, so it would make sense for my character to be loyal than enlist for the Badgers. I am pleased I made the Game of Tomes more fun for others and that I increased the recruitment for Lappin higher because of my obsessive loyalty to House Lappin. Whew! You can make it a draft. Melee. All right. Wow, made it through. Okay, good article. Yes, it is a little chatty. It is a little informal in your tone, but I enjoyed it because you did call it in an interview and it felt like you were answering questions as you would hear in an interview. So I did like that. Really didn't worry about the grammar because again, this is an informal thing going forward. Good use of the tooltips to explain what that is. Um, let's see. Thank you for the kind shout outs to myself and to other members of the Anvilite Streamer Corps. And oh, yeah, and Emily is featured in a tooltip. Yeah, a lot of good information. Thank you for letting me read that and reviewing that, and we'll call it there.